I'm very pleased to welcome here on stage Filippo Zenta. He is the Public Affairs Director and spokesperson of Coca-Cola and has a leading European role in the waste management part, which is part of what he's going to talk about. And as side hustles, he's Vice President of the Special Olympics in Austria and the President of the Austrian American Society here in Vienna. So thank you for being here and looking forward to hearing your slides.
Thank you very much. Very welcome from my side. And before I go into the depth of this local program that actually had some international exposure already, I'd like to give you some context. In that respect, we all hear about the war in Ukraine. We've been through the COVID crisis, but the overarching fundamental problem that the planet has to work on is the climate crisis. And the climate crisis is very often also connected with another phenomenon that is hurting and we as Coca-Cola have to deal with. That's the topic of plastic pollution. And with plastic pollution, you think about, okay, how can we solve this overarching problem? And it was hard to grab for us as a company because we do not waste our products and then throw them away, but we do have the responsibility to take care of it. It is something what is called extended producer responsibility. And our CEO, James Quincy, very boldly said, well, this is something we have to change. And he set up a plan, which when I heard it the first time, I thought, well, we're going to the moon for a second time. We want to have all our packages back. And this has two fundamental components. Number one, first of all, it's very bad for the planet if all the containers are lying around. This is not good. But it's also, business-wise, it's not good, because we need all our containers back because we want to reuse them as new containers for our beverages. And this is great as a statement, but how the hell are you doing that? This means you have to change some things really fundamentally. And he brought up 3 points as guidelines. Again, it seems like not rocket science, but it's fundamentally important that we deal with that in a very ambitious way. Number one is about design. The packages that we are working on need to be, first of all, less, and secondly, they all have to be recyclable. And with that, here in Europe, in this territory, the packages are already recyclable. But is this also true for all the components? Is this true for the closure? Is this true for the labels? Is this true for the shrink packs? And so on and so on. So this has to go through a rigorous process that this has to be fulfilled by 2025. The second thing, and this is the biggest animal for us, is how do we collect all our packages? And I have to say, it is very, very ambitious. And Austria, I don't know, you have probably, I hope you have not experienced a lot of litter on the street. But even in our country, we have a big way to go. We have about 70% of our packages one way are collected, and far from being 100%. And especially Vienna, and then we'll talk about this a bit later, is one of our biggest battlegrounds because here is the biggest necessity for improvement. And the last point, and this is, I think, why it is so good to talk to you, is you can't do this alone. You have to work together. Big problems need collaboration. Any problem in climate change, we cannot solve this by one person or by one organization. It has to be done collectively. And on top, we have big institutions like the European Union that set the pace and said, dear organizations, here is the new goal. New goal, you have to collect by 2029 90% of PET packages, and by the way, this will soon be the same for cans. So this is a very clear direction that we have to fulfill. And from some of us, this is still far away, yeah? But I can tell you, 7 years means nothing if it needs a fundamental system change. Now, every journey starts with the first step. And I've talked about partners and working together and collective thinking. And what you see here is a bunch of my colleagues from the beverage industry in Austria. The picture was taken roughly 1.5 years ago when we came together, and then we have decided where we go the first step. And the first step was the launch of Recycle Me, an app, an incentive app that helps to collect more packages in the Vienna area. So what was the status quo at that time? First of all, we had no solution on how we actually want to tackle the EU goal for 2029. We knew we have to do something, otherwise we get punished, at least with another form of taxation. But we have, even if we have a taxation, it's still not solved. The other element is, we have an ongoing discussion on a deposit system, which we as Coca-Cola were actually in favor of, but we were not able to get a collective thinking on that. And so we were thinking, okay, well, if you can't use door 1 for your solution, well, try door 2, and if this doesn't work, then take door number 3. But you need to do something. You cannot wait for your actions. In that respect, we said, well, we had, and this was very important for Florian, is how is the current situation? How think people about it? And the Austrians, and in particular those people living in Vienna, was a city with 2 million people, thought, well, for us, convenience would be most important. If you have a lot of containers, then it's easy to dispose of our products, especially if I buy them on the go, on the Würstelstand or somewhere where I carry it with me. And then I find something like little incentives, like a cash bonus or a deposit would be nice, but also vouchers would help. And they were not really thinking about it, well, maybe there are some ways of finding my next container is helpful, which we actually found out that this later on was quite essential. Also in that aspect, and if you look on your cell phone, it's filling up with apps, and some of them I use, some of them I don't use, but I keep them. And but what you really want to have is an app that you are heavily using, which is on the first page of your cell phone. But if you don't know about this and you have no connection with how this could work, then you have a relative low involvement with that. So that was the case when we tested it. How did it technically work? First of all, we were fully mindful that whatever we put on the market has to be very, very simple. And it truly had to be a benefit to the consumers, otherwise it will never, ever work. So first of all, especially if you're in an area in the city where you're not familiar with, where is my next yellow bin where I can dispose my beverage? There was no system, no service available that actually tells me where to find the next bin. Secondly, we wanted to use the app with an existing system. So we didn't want to create another code on a package, which means this would be extremely expensive. And thirdly was, well, can we give the consumer something meaningful when they are rewarded for disposing their products correctly? So that was the simplicity of the tool. In a bit more detail, it looked like this. You have actually a kind of overview on your results. How many packages have you actually brought back correctly? First of all, you need to find the next bin. Then you scan the bin so that you identify that you are at a location that is certified. Then you scan the barcode. So we didn't put any unique codes on, if anybody is familiar with that type of tools. And afterwards, you got rewarded either on a weekly base, on a monthly base, and of course, anytime you gave something back, you already had a good feeling because we left a nice message that you have done something well. So this is the summary. We came together as an industry. We started this activity. We had the majority of the brands collected. We had the prices, and we had some out-of-home social media campaign and quite a good PR coverage. And that was crucial because what you see here is the traditional media is still, at least in Austria, the best way to get a message across, unless you want to create a turmoil or something, a scandal. Yeah? This usually works very well on social media. But if you have a serious message, yeah, you need something that is carrying it in a very credible way. And so the usual media from TV as well as print as well as online, etc., worked really well. And over time, and it was not too much later, we actually looked into the results. And first of all, it was an increasing awareness of the app. So that was a little bit became something talk of town. Yes, I've heard about it, I've seen it, I tried it. And over time, this became something, okay, this can help as a tool to help to promote and increase the collection rate. And especially the burden of finding my next yellow bin was dramatically reduced. Also, what was important is we put a thought into the society that we are not standing still, we're not waiting. We're doing something, we're trying out. If it's the right thing, we don't know, but even failing brings you to the next level. But the most important outcome came for us a little bit later. And I'm saying this, and I'm proud about this, because if you start a thought process and a change process, you cannot expect that something happens overnight, usually. For us, it was most important that we actually found a solution in the fall of last year that we are actually introducing a deposit system in Austria. And our expectations are high. I've mentioned we have 70%, a bit more than 70% collection rate. Our expectations with the introduction of the deposit system, it will go 90% or plus 90%. So this is a big step forward for us. And it will also help us not just to increase the collection, it will also help us to get good material at an easier way to use it for returnable content for our packages that we are bringing back into the market. And funnily enough, the used material is in the meantime more expensive than the raw material. This is something that has changed because there's a great demand from all kinds of industries for material that was used for the beverage industry that's been later used in other industries. Yeah? Take Lego pieces that are used now from recycled materials. And we want to keep what we used in the market and keep it with our industry so that there's no downcycling happening. And the second element that was also taking place simultaneously, it's important as a side information, is also that we're working strongly to increase the returnable business as well. What you see here is a returnable glass bottle, but there are other ways of bringing return systems into the market as well. But this is beyond this speech. The second element that is, I think is important, the deposit system will be introduced in 2025. And what's happening until then? It's a couple of years. Not that we're just working on the setup of the deposit system, but also the collection system will further increase. It has to be actually not just only used for beverage system. It can be used also for other containers, and it can be used beyond Vienna. And this is just happening. What you see here, the numbers of the slightly more than a year, you see quite a good exposure of usage. You just heard the plan. The plan is it's not going to stay with beverage containers. It will go up to others, and where there's no deposit system yet, and it will be used on a federal level. And what has been mentioned before, we gained a lot of information already. For example, the people in Vienna are actually using Saturday as the primary day for putting back their beverages. Or they have specific routes and date times where they are actually using their walk to the bins. So there is lots of information that can be used and can be used also for later and other projects as well. So let me finalize with a famous president of the Coca-Cola company, Don Keogh. Not reading what you can read yourself, it is important that you not just talk, that you start into doing. And even if you fail, it doesn't matter. You can learn and you can reuse and reapply your knowledge that you've gained with other next projects. So this is my wish and my ask to all of you is please, in a peaceful world, it's about collaboration. And my wish is that this conference will also help to work and bring peacefully people together to work together and to collaborate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. It's all about data. It's all about joining data and let the data collaborate. And this is a little bit where I would like to show you now what we did behind the screen of what you saw now, because Austria is, I would say, recycling world champion in the level of recycling we do with paper, with plastic bottles and such. So it's really hard to measure the impact if you want to double down on those efforts that are already very high in level and get from 70 to 90% in the recycling effort. So it's really hard to tell a story that is exaggerating, tell a story that is really moving the people, because yeah, we heard it, it's all, we know it, it's not a special thing. So that was really the PR and communications effort we had to go into. And so we had to use the media because they determine the public space that we need to get into. And we, in Austria, perhaps a little more than in other countries, have the classic media, print, radio, TV, which are still very relevant if you want to gain the general audience and not the niche. And this is something that touches everyone, because Coca-Cola has branding recognition of 99 point, I don't know how many percentage points, but everyone knows it and everyone uses it quite heavily. And also the product that you see here on your tables, Römerquelle, it's very Austrian, but it's also part of the Coca-Cola company. So what we did is we searched for the public opinion, which is the one being influenced by the published opinion. So we want to influence the published opinion, and to see what effect that has, we had to go there and take a basic measurement, and we could do that basic measurement not in the media measurement and the media resonance analysis, but we wanted to see what is the status in the head of the public. So it was market research, and so we did a basic analysis of the market research part, and we combined it then with the media measurement, because all those actions from several partners, it was not just simple PR and this is the automatic thing that went out. No, it was a concerted effort by a whole industry, and so you had many aspects that paid into that, what Coca-Cola wanted to transport there, and therefore the measurement had also to be in a more complex way. And so we went there for that 360-degree part, where it was about defining those goals, planning them, and enforcing it on the brand safety side, which was in such a positive surrounding, not that much of a problem, but still there was an issue, because you always have backlash from someone over something. And then to measure and learn, and there combine the measurement of the market research on the one hand and the media resonance on the other hand, and then going back in. I think this is the special thing, where we want to bring the media intelligence to the brand intelligence, that we then see what really the communications, and all the communications, also those involuntary communications and perhaps the communications by an opponent, then really meant to the public opinion. And we did that second measurement to see what really had changed. It was really short space of time, only 3 months, and so the public opinion does not really change on a known and quite highly educated topic for Austrians who learned about recycling since the 1980s. It doesn't change wildly, but any kind of change of behavior and view on those topics was definitely a success there. And this is how we try to go there, for media intelligence plus market research, to the integrated brand intelligence that then really shows you how your brand is faring in those markets. Just a quick, very technical overview. Market research, those main differences, just you know them, but just to highlight those differences, why it's so precious to have those two combined with market research and media resonance. You have market research at one point in time, you have sample data standing for the whole. It was 500 Viennese citizens that we asked to fill out the questionnaire. And there's a time gap between data collection and then really receiving the data. And it's a more relevant budget item than media resonance normally is, but it has continual data gathering. And you get the full depth of the data, because you can go into every social media post, every engagement, every repost, and every commentary. And it's immediately available. So if you're there active in your role as communications, you get an instant actionable result back, which you can still decide to react upon, or rather not react upon, which is the role of the PR in the whole way. And so market research, we say, measures what got into the head of the public and the customer, and media resonance analysis measures what potentially reached the attention of the customer and the public. And by those two things combined, we get to a stylized view of that, so that you see what's paying into those different aspects of your brand, like quality, price, innovation, or sustainability, and then what really changes the behavior, or what changes the view of the public or the stakeholders you questioned. on those topics. And out of that, you get kind of the ultimate goal in our view, that you really can see what all your communications efforts, and it's more than just the PR efforts, but it's the whole brand attitude, the whole sponsoring, everything that pays into that, then really amounts to in the head of the customer. And this is what we did in the basis for Coca-Cola there. And so the integration gets into the deeper insight and shows you what happened and what effect it did have. So that was just kind of the technical background here a little bit. Questions? Then I would have oh, sorry. Standing in the limelight.
Hi, I'm Janet Wiese. I'm with the United Nations. So I just wanted to say, gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling, your slide up there, because it's our impact measurement of our communications. You used our branding, you used all the things that we have been promoting through the Sustainable Development Goals. So thank you for that. Specifically on the app, because we use that too. What was your, what was the age group you were reaching with it? And also drop off. People downloaded, it's new, it's shiny, exciting, fun to use, but happens down the line.
Good question, and I forgot to mention a very important stakeholder in this whole setup. That was the PRO, so the recycling organization that helped us to develop this, Reclay. And they went so far, actually, in the rebranding process that they are now called Recycle Me, like the app. So they went that far that they actually use this as their vision now for their own company. We had actually at the beginning quite a good start. And then as usual, if you are not active, you always lose people. So the necessity for an app like this is to stay on course, to always come up with some new ideas. Over the turn of the year, for example, we said, well, this is a golden opportunity. Well, why don't you win this little gold coins on a daily basis, just to come up with something that is innovative or incentivizing this whole thing. It's a learning process, and we are not yet in a position to say this works or this is really taking off. But what we see is that a lot of other countries are actually also seeing interest. In the development of the app, we worked very closely with some thoughts and ideas that were used in Canada and Manitoba. But we've seen great interest in the Middle East and in the Far East, and even in Austria. The biggest competitor of the partner we worked with is also coming up with an app that is using electronic tools to support the collection. Maybe one fundamental aspect here is we trying to incentivize. So we are not paying back any deposit yet, but this could be possible if you have a unique code on the bottle. But that's quite still a challenging item. We tested it, we tried it actually also last year with this app in one specific location. But it's still quite a challenge to do that. So we stay with the original thought, keep it simple and stupid, and we can still transform it and make it more user-friendly. And the latest version actually also tried to have it even a bit more easier when it comes to the first connections.
Perhaps as well from the part of the media, it was really showed that people in the industry media, people involved in all that, they really took up the idea, they understood the essence of it. But in the general public, after there was kind of that, oh wow, interesting, there's something new. You always have constantly to come up with new information and new takes on that, unless it drops down quite quickly in the attention of the media and therefore also of the public. But in those specialty groups, there it goes a long way, and that is already one effect that we can also see in the media data. Thomas.
I'm Thomas Netusek, located in Vienna, heavy user of Coca-Cola bottles.
Thank you.
And I was wondering, in Germany there is a deposit system already. What's holding you from introducing this in Austria too?
Yeah, we are actually working on a deposit system, and it's coming by 2025. But what we not want to have is the same deposit system as in Germany. That's because there's some real fundamental flaws in it, because it was very rapidly introduced. We are trying, and hopefully we are successful. We want to have a very easy, user-friendly deposit system that is working effectively.
And I have a second question. There's this S word, I guess, SodaStream. What's your opinion on that?
SodaStream is working particularly well in Austria because we have very good water from tap. In other countries where this is not the case, it is probably not as successful. What is good, it is something that offers an opportunity to drink using tap water and even mix it with flavors. And they found a very sweet spot in using this in the Austrian households.
Perhaps also from my side, 2 words to that. On the one hand, the really fascinating part is connecting those data points. You saw the map of Vienna with those collection points, and that is something that also can run back into the detailed media, super localized media, so you can really push the efforts in several regions when you see there is a lack or they're running ahead. So it's all about connecting the data, and that is also with that collection system, that it should be more digitized and to be more user-friendly. And on the other part, it's a branding issue. And SodaStream is something where we see they have quite an opportunity as a brand, but still it's about the content and of the branding. So I think as we see it in the data, it's not something that changes the whole landscape. Even here in Austria, where it's perfect because you can drink the tap water and it has a high quality. So, any more?
2 more questions.
Questions, sorry? Yeah?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the talk. I'm Vincent Bos, I'm with Meltwater. Can you maybe allude to some of the predictability of your IBI model, and also maybe speak to what it's done commercially for Coca-Cola? Has there been some outcome where you guys have sold more because of this? Yeah.
I think that would go a little bit far because we're on the data side, so we're projecting the data, and impact on sales, that would be quite far-reaching for any PR and market research having that effect on it alone. So it's about showing what the marketplace is to then act on that data, but sales, I think, is...
Let me put it this way. It's great to have a wealth of data, but it's even better if you have action in the market. And for us, it was one element to say, well, we're not standing still and wait until doomsday. We want to try, improve, learn to make things a little bit better. And even if we fail, but we have tried. And what was really, really important for us was that the legislation changed collectively, not as a revolution, but collectively, together with the retailers. As we found ourselves, said, okay, we need to make a change in our collection system. And that helped us in bringing the deposit system into life. We have actually even enough time to get it done. We have still 2.5 years. and it's quite a revolutionary step in the collection system. So, and I would say Recycle Me has helped to erode in a situation where people were looking for exits, even if they were not in favor of a deposit. They were looking for options to make some positive changes, and in that respect, it was really helping.
And perhaps one more thing concerning sales data. Coca-Cola has such a strong presence in Austria, so that any measure, any sponsoring, any effect would be outdone by the temperature, the weather, is it raining or not? That has way more effect on the sales numbers than a branding issue, I would say, because
the immediate effects are usually price promotions in retail that has the biggest immediate impact. But we're not looking for an immediate impact in terms of sales spike. We were looking for a system change.
One more question there in the back.
Hi, I'm Jack from Talkwalker. It's interesting to hear that the outcome metric isn't always sales or share price or whatever else. Clearly, the campaign is working well from a fact that you're getting more people recycling. I'm interested to understand how successful you feel you've been in uncovering which parts and which channels have been most effective from a measurement perspective. Have you got any insight there at all?
That's a steady learning process, and we have seen different routes. If you make it into the tabloids in Austria or into prime television, that still has significant impact, especially with key stakeholders. And when they saw it in the evening news, when they saw it in the biggest daily, then it created reaction. So that automatically came up into the on the radar of key decision makers. But the next generation that is not watching TV, is not reading print paper, is only looking into social media. This is also very important for us to get connected with, but it needs complete different networks. And we worked with influencers also to get connected there. But it is something that needs a complete different approach. Yeah?
And perhaps to go a little bit more into the data, social media, if you're on social media, everyone's on social media, that's not special. But if you're on TV or in the news, then that is the event. So we see the effect quite often that if you're in the papers, then that is the event that also drives social media, because this is what you tweet about and what you post on Instagram, and that is the event that is then being talked about, not the event actually, but the event so many things happen and nobody writes about it, so nobody knows about it. So the event itself is not as important, but the event of being posted in the media and being covered by important magazines and industry magazines and the tabloids, that is then the news item that is being transported into social media and has an effect also among the youth. But if you don't have the first step, it's really hard to become relevant also on social media. So it's kind of, it's communicating systems, and you need both of them. And in Austria, even more so, to come through the threshold of irrelevancy, it is the main media.
Of course, it was also relevant, especially at the beginning, to advertise on the download platforms. So that's when you look for recycling, etc.
That's not PR in a way. So.
Yeah.
I think our time's up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of the day.